Be a good idea if we did have an election that had officials that, they would have to be responsible for what we voted. We'd have to go along however they vote. That's just, but I agree with having an election.
Okay. No?
The only challenge I would have to that is I kind of look at the county as our home and somewhat of a business. If you're going to create another elected official that we're going to have to pay for, we're going to have to really think about the role and the impact that person's going to have if they're an elected official getting paid by the county. If that's what you're saying.
Just as a follow-up to that, so the group has done quite good research on that. There's other counties that have, and that's where this idea came from, is have elected library advisory boards in that manner. They're just like the school board, they're unpaid.
Okay.
And so it wouldn't change their pay status, it just, rather than appointment. So just to give you a little background on where that question came from. So.
All right.
Melanie, you had a follow-up question? Good, okay. So Dave, you ready to move on?
The library issue, the thing that wouldn't die. Obviously, that has sparked some stuff in this county. But anyway, okay, this is regarding the Republican platform of Texas. This is the question. Do you fully support the current Republican platform of Texas? And if so, please name 3 principles from the current platform that you are the most passionate about advancing and defending, and explain.
I haven't read that.
Fair enough.
Fair enough?
I'm kind of like Kelly, I don't have enough information to give you an answer on that.
I read it, but I don't remember.
All right, you're a former county chair, you better know.
Okay, marriage is between one man and one woman. I feel very strong on that. And if you hadn't asked me, I could have told you 10 items. Because we had to fill out a form that had 10 items on it. And all of a sudden, those 10 items are just kind of going over my head. Family is very strong.
Sorry.
Pro-life.
Yeah, this is there's no.
No, any other time I could just name them, because I can see them, but all of a sudden it's like the page is blank. But those are very important.
So just to give you a follow-up on that, so one of the tenets of the platform is the belief in natural law. Any thoughts on natural law and how it pertains to this position?
I'm a firm believer that marriage is an institution of God that was made for one man and one woman. That's it. I'm pro-life. I can't understand how anybody could have an abortion. I know there's some. I'm trying not to offend anybody. But, I am a pro-life advocate, and I always will be. I mean, that's part of my bringing up.
Are you done? As far as natural law is concerned, I think the gentleman that spoke on Thursday was, wow, love his passion at Tea Party. I think my ears are still ringing.
You should have been sitting on the front.
No, I saw your hair pulling back. So, and I love what he was talking about, and I wish more elected officials, in terms of that doctrine of a lesser magistrate, being able to stand in the gap when people's rights are being, and civil liberties are being abused. And that's why I thought the question to me, I thought was pretty simple as it relates to the sheriff and standing with him when something so catastrophic and counter to our American culture. How in the world are you not going to stand, even if it is a federal law? Okay, you know, and that's something, I don't know if you heard, I was surprised, John, when you said you would do the federal law, because to me, that's something, Sheriff Deeds is the last thing. And to stand by him, to do the right thing, that goes right in line with being a lesser magistrate. That's why I stand with Katie Lang and Mike, is because that was their crucible. And Kevin Downey's been a next door neighbor of mine for 5 years. And, but that was their crucible. I know you can teach somebody economics and numbers, but I saw his character, and I saw their character when they were under heat and fire. So, I don't know if I'm answering your question.
Yeah. No right or wrong answer at this point, so.
No, that's, and I can't remember if I've said this tonight or not, when you say so, go to so many meetings, but I feel very strong that when an elected official does take the oath of office, that they swear to defend, protect, and preserve the constitutions and the laws of the United States and of Texas, and then that's what you do. And as Kelly said, that's why you stand up for what you believe in and what the Constitution says, like Katie did. And that's why, you know, it does say marriage is between one man and one woman. You know, it also protects our rights as far as our guns. So again, standing behind the sheriff, I would stand behind the sheriff all the time. He's protecting our Second Amendment rights. So.
Okay, when it comes to man and woman, I'm Catholic. So marriage is a sacrament of the church. And it's between a man and a woman, and it's lifelong. So actually, probably close to 50% of the people don't believe it. That's lifelong. But basically, that's what I believe, and I don't think that, and the church is definitely man and woman. So that's that. As far as the federal laws, I think any time that, if you got a federal law, if it's federal law, it's guaranteed for I mean, if it's constitutional law is saying federal law, then you've got to obey it. You can't pick and choose which laws you want to obey. So that's my belief.
Got a follow-up?
Yeah,
Well,
because
Lisa?
I want to do it, Robert.
Just a second. Dave, when you asked that question, though, you said, if I remember correctly, you said the federal government, by executive order, would ask the sheriff to confiscate all guns, correct?
Well, it was a little broader than that. It was the federal,
Well, I know
it
you're
was the
gonna,
federal government by executive fiat or otherwise. Doesn't matter.
If it's the federal government doing it by executive order or something, then that's counter to the Constitution.
There you go.
So it's not, let the Attorney General decide that out. The sheriff can do what he wants because it's really ambiguous.
So, just a quick add to that, and so what I threw out to you guys was in specific natural law, and there's a specific reason why I asked that. So, what does natural law mean to you? It's not specifically focused on marriage. It's one principle of our constitutional republic that would kind of alleviate this ambiguity of the government's right to take our arms or not. So natural law has a specific implication. Where do our rights come from?
I'm more constitutional law.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I go. And I don't know I guess I'm a little bit vague on natural law and constitutional law, but I think the Constitution is what our country is based on.
Well, I'll let each one of you answer, and then I'll explain.
Okay,
natural law is from God.
that's right.
Okay. Well, and your position on, do you believe
Oh, yeah.
natural law versus
Yes,
Okay.
I believe in God's law. After that, I believe in the Constitution, but yes, God's law. And it tells us what we need to do.
But the Constitution is based on natural law.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think that the Constitution is opposed to natural law or God's law.
Okay.
It's based on,
I hope.
Okay.
yeah.
Kelly?
Based on
Yeah, natural law, I think that's what we're in jeopardy nationally, is when there's an assault on on a natural law, which is the foundation of our Constitution, from which it draws its authority from. But when you remove the authority and you nullify the importance of the Bible, and you consider it just it's an old book, a series of allegories written by a bunch of Jewish guys years ago, well, then the argument becomes, now we've removed the argument. Now it's all about man's law. And that's where things totally fall apart.
I've always kind of believed that the Bible is our Constitution, and that's just how I've always looked at it.
Okay, so just because I think there was some confusion, natural law is the premise that our rights come from God, and then by extension, as a constitutional republic, we as individuals offer up through our vote to the elected servants a little bit of our rights to go out and take care of public safety and protect our rights. So that was the impetus for the question, because that clears up the question that Mr. Eagle was referring to in terms of, do they have the right to take guns away from us? So it depends on where you fall in that spectrum. The federal government gives us our rights, or God gives us our rights?
I think you need to answer the questions first, and then we'll follow up.
Okay, so I think we're ready for the next question.
What is your interpretation of what the oath of office means to you and to the public?
I think I just answered that.
You did, so I'll let the others answer.
I think when you take an oath of office, you know, you are to uphold that office. But, you know, it's like it's a very difficult question to me, and I'm not really 100% sure, but I know when you take oath of office, you should perform that oath, because you're promising that you're gonna, to everybody that voted you in, that you're gonna do what you said you would do.
Well, an oath, to me, you're doing it not only in front of and for our fellow man, but you're doing it in front of God. And I'm committing to do the very best I can, and to represent us and the interest of Hood County, and do so in a Christian way, and being able to put my name on the line in the name of Jesus Christ. And so with that comes a significant responsibility.
I think a little bit of it is what they've said, that's an oath to God, but it's also, from my background out in West Texas, everything, you give your word on something, that's etched in stone.
And as I said, you promise to defend, protect, and preserve the Constitution and the laws of the United States and of Texas
That's right.
all the time. Not just when it feels comfortable, but all the time.
That's right.
Mr. Eagle.
Are you passing around and if anybody's got a question? Or?
I've got the question.
Okay. I'm trying to do your job, sorry. Okay, this is the last question I've got. This is about federal grants, seeking federal grants. And here we come back to the library. It's been bannered, and it's not the only issue, but I'll use this as the example. It's been bannered around that the Hood County Library may draft a request for a federal grant to expand its scope and size, the library. Do you support or oppose seeking money from the federal government to do such a project? And do you see any downside if you do support such an action?
Oh, okay. Oh, that's a real question, because usually on a grant, you've got some stipulation, you don't ever get money for it. But the other side of the story is it's our money. And you're just gonna have to do it on a case-by-case basis. You go out, and I know at, I'm on the board of directors for AMA, we got a grant to expand our water system or sewer system. So in some cases, yes, some cases, the strings are too tight.
specifically dealing with your question, to me, it's no and yes. I mean, I would not support something like that. I mean, because that's the first thing that comes to my mind is, okay, where are the strings associated with this? And is it consistent with our identity and what our people want? And going back and listening to you guys. But that's my first gut reaction is no, I'm not going to support something like that.
You know, I'm like, what Kelly just said, I agree 100%. I'm not going to support anything, any kind of thing where the government can come in and start telling us how, you know, they're going to give us the money, but they're going to then start telling us how we're going to use the money. And I think less government's all just better.
Gene, then, please.
Would you repeat the question?
It has been bannered around, and it's been bannered around that the Hood County Library might draft a request for a grant from the federal government to expand its scope and size. At least they were talking about that some months ago. Do you support or oppose seeking money from the federal government to do such a project? And do you see any, if you support that, do you see any downside if you do?
And I agree with the other candidates. Until I could look at it further, I would say no right now. I have applied for grants. I've gotten grants to build parks, and there was nothing attached. So they worked out really well. But I would like to see before I could answer that completely.
Lisa, you got a follow-up?
I do. Okay, so, along with the question, I just lost the call. The ALA, if you were to become commissioner, would you get rid of that membership for the library?
I don't think it's necessary for us to be a member.
Thank you.
This whole situation, I attended some of those commissioners' court meetings and listened to both sides of the thing. It's pretty confusing. I mean, I'm not sure that I have enough knowledge or background to make a correct decision on this. It's a little bit like even the grant. That's our money. You got to look and see what's trained. You know, I don't do a yes or no right quick. I want to study it. And,
I'm just talking about the ALA.
yeah, but the ALA, I don't know.
American Library Association.
Yeah, I know what the ALA, but I don't know what they bring to it. I'm not sure. Before I say no, I wouldn't do it. I don't know all of the things that they do.
Fair enough. Okay. Kelly?
I would agree with Gene, I don't think that should be necessary.
Most of the counties around here do not,
Yeah.
are not members of the ALA. There's no
Okay,
reason.
let's see.
I mean, I agree too, but I don't think it's necessary to be a part of our library.
It's just too
Yes.
liberal to it.
Well, let me back up to Dave's question real quick. So, let's put it in this context. With the federal government, 20 plus trillion dollars in debt, are federal grants really our money? Or whose money is it and who are we actually putting in debt when you take the grant?
That question is a good question. I don't have enough knowledge in it to answer that question.
Whose money is it? Is that what you're asking?
Yes. At $20 trillion in debt, when you're taking more money from the federal government, is it really our money that we put in and we're asking for it back?
Well, at the rate we're printing it, it's crazy money. That's why, to answer your question specifically on certain things, it's ridiculous to go, I mean, natural disaster or relief fund or something like that, we've got to get something, it's an emergency. It's not something, but it's having to do with a library. It's like running a household, you know. I'm getting is it essential? I got to go borrow money that's been manufactured to go do something that's non-essential to my community. I don't want to get. I mean, libraries are great, but it's everybody's money.
Hey, I think on some of the grants we're looking at from the federal government, you're right on it's whose money is it? But the situation is, if you're going to build something, do you raise taxes to do it, or can you get a grant to do it? Now, that's where the problem comes up, or a situation where you've got to evaluate what you're doing. So, you're paying for it either way, going in. So, it's not an easy question. You gotta look at it, you really need something for your community, and you've got the government that's gonna kick in something on a grant, or you're gonna have to raise taxes to do it. So I think that maybe that's something that the citizens and the taxpayers should figure out,
I think our money, it's our money to begin with. I mean, we're giving it, the debt's our debt. So we're just getting some of it back. Is that what you just said?
Okay, so to be fair to John, when he asked, I should answer the question before I ask you guys. So in reality terms, the comprehension of $20 trillion in debt, will any of us be alive when that debt is repaid? Or are we putting it off on our kids and our grandkids? That's why I asked if it's legitimate to say it's our money, because we're taking from the next generations. That was it.
And it is our money, but it's also the kids and the grandkids.
We've already spent our money, now we're charging it to them, so that's why I was asking. Melanie, did you have another question left on your list?
I do.
Okay.
This is a two-part question. I can repeat it. It's kind of long, but the first part, as you may know, the YMCA project has encountered expenses that were above and beyond what the Commissioners Court told the public when the project was proposed. How would you handle this situation? And the second part is, what is the responsibility of the Commissioners when they overspend what they told the public?
Am I first?
Okay.
I've kind of lost track, so since you
I
got the
lost
microphone,
track
you're first.
too. I don't think I think a county budget is the same as my home budget. If I'm going to purchase something, I'm going to know pretty close what that's going to cost me. And I think that the commissioner should have known what the cost was going to be. Were they going to have to pay for the land, or was the land going to be donated? Those were questions that should have been answered up front before they started the construction. And then, once they started, it was kind of too late. They had to go ahead and move forward. But I think you've got to know the answers to the questions before. You do it with your home budget, you need to do it with the county, even more so with the county budget, because we're spending your money.
Okay, when you go to the voters to do something, usually on a project, you'll come in and say it's going to be $100,000 and 10% contingency where it could go over. You better have your homework done, because you have represented that, and if you don't have your homework done, you shouldn't be doing the job.
I guess first of all, I don't know that it was their place to get involved in that and how that happened. In lieu of the things that we need to spend money on, not the least of which being our jail and our public safety, that's part of the three parts of my platform that I really want to focus on. Number one, being able to provide the best public safety we can afford. So that being said, projects like this with cost overruns happen on a public and private level all over the place in cities and counties all over the United States. This kind of stuff happens all the time. Those kind of guys, when that happens either through ignorance or negligence or whatever, they're held accountable immediately. And they're going to own it. It's just that simple. I would as well. Lord knows I've made enough of those mistakes. That's how you get wisdom with good teachers and bad experiences. I've had a lot of bad experiences, which I think in this case, I would have asked a lot of different questions. But now it is what it is. We'll hold the guys accountable, and now I would hope that we would direct the conversation on how do we leverage this YMCA. The money's spent, it's gone, how do we leverage it? How do we, as leaders and as citizens, make decisions on how to build around it, to leverage it, and how can we turn it into something that can generate cash? Raising the rates, which I think they're going to do. But how do we utilize that as an asset and hold the guys accountable, but now we've got to move on and look at revenue generating conversations. That's the way I feel about that.
I'm not sure how they did not know that they weren't going to have to pay for the land. I don't know how that got fumbled or whatever. And I know that the commissioners are gonna have to answer to the overruns that are out there on the YMCA. I don't know all the answers. I don't know, I haven't gotten involved in it very much, but I do know that it's there, and we need to figure out how to use it the best way we can, because even though not everybody voted for it, it's there, and we need to figure out how to use it.